Morning, and welcome to the morning walk, where it's probably going to rain in a bit, so we might be dashing for cover momentarily, probably to hide from the rain, but it has been coming down pretty significantly. To be honest, I should have come a lot earlier. However, that was just me being lazy this morning. Michael, good morning to you. And good morrow to you. Catho G, good morning to you. Dave W, good morning to you. I am going to have to look at the chat settings on here to see if I can get back what it used to be, but we'll see. Cavalan, good morning to you. Guten Morgen from Pagan, good morning. Paul, good morning to you. John, good morning to you as well. But yes, good morning to everyone. Like I say, come on in, hit the like, hit the share button. Enjoy your early morning pony as your reward for being early. Oh, but yes, interesting week indeed, especially for conferences. We'll start off with the ARC one. One Angry Pagan, yep, lovely British weather indeed. Typical lovely British weather. I honestly was thinking, should I just do an inside morning walk today, because it is meant to be, shall we say, heaven opening rain today. It rained pretty much all day Thursday, so the likelihood of us getting across to the second part of the field is highly unlikely because of that. So this might be a shorter morning walk than normal because of that, unfortunately. But like I say, I cannot control the weather, at least not yet. I haven't got around to financing my weather machine yet. But yes, conferences in the UK. Wow, week it's been. We'll start off with the ARC conference. Because those of you who are Pony Club members or joined us on the Patreon, by the way, good segue to plug into that. Links down below, by the way. If you're a member of that, we covered Jordan Peterson's, quote, most inspiring speech ever. To which I said, why on earth is this so inspiring? If anything, I sat there bored out of my mind if I was in that conference hall. And there were certainly a lot of people with their phones out at one point. Someone even on their laptop. And then, of course, we did cover the Conservative Home, because whenever there is a big Conservative conference, they send someone to cover it, to give their view. And I think we can best sum up. You learned how bad Peterson was through Vosh. Yeah. Like I say, there's a reason why I don't cover Peterson, because he's mostly just a culture war fighter. And that's essentially what he did for a good 20 minutes. And to get through it, we had to play it at 2 times the speed. And even then, everything he was saying really wasn't making sense. But essentially it all ended with, we've got to get more people to realign with the hierarchy and point ourselves towards God. Good morning, Helen. Good morning. And that pretty much sums up what the ARC conference was. That it was Christian conservatives coming together to try and decide the direction of conservatism. Needless to say, I haven't heard, shall we say, nearly. Like I say, I haven't heard many good reports from it, to say the least. There was also one point in the Conservative Home article where he was like, yes, I sat down with these like really young, Australian conservatives who were talking about Winston Churchill. No, they were talking about Locke and his economic principles, and then immigration featuring Enoch Powell. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in that conversation, just to hear the nonsense that would have been spouted. And then, of course, to knock it all off, it seems apparently it was heavily astroturfed, that there were more Australians there in the audience and in attendance than there were people from the UK. Bizarre turn of events, but there you go. Was there a time when he ever mostly made sense? No, to be honest. Yeah, Kermit the Frog has sniffed out a new grift. Oh, absolutely, he's been on that grift for a while. Isn't Christian conservative an oxymoron? Yes, because obviously, Jesus said quite a lot of, socialist things, which of course conservatives don't like. Hence the probably heavy picking of the cherry picking of the Bible, shall we say. Ben Ridings, good morning to you. Take care out there. It's a bit blowy. Not as bad as it could be. We'll see what happens, but I think this might be a shorter good morning walk than normal, because I'm probably not going to go the full way around, because the field over there is quite flooded. So I am I am quite a fast walker, so I'm going to have to slow down a bit. Otherwise, I've gone there and back again and not said everything I wanted to say today. So yeah, that was the first conference. That was the first conference, which was weird, to say the least. Oh, good morning to you. The second conference, which I've got to try and track down, because somewhere it's going to exist, because I really want to go over it. I should have live streamed it. I wish I had done now. The interview between Rishi Sunak and Elon Musk. To quote Sam Coates, who on Sky News tweeted about this, the interview came across as incredibly bizarre and just weird, because it was essentially just Rishi and Elon having a tech bro down, just espousing their shall we say credentials on AI, with Elon Musk saying that oh, don't worry, we won't need UBI. Well, that's universal basic income, for those of you who don't know, because we're going to have naturally high wages from AI, and there's going to be no job losses. I can't help but spot the contradictions. I cannot help but spot the big contradictions in that. Oh, is that pony upright? I don't know, he's walking a bit strange. especially when you've got Elon Musk, who is constantly got blindsided there by a pony. Can't help spot the contradictions where Elon's saying, yeah, AI isn't going to take away anyone's jobs. We're somehow all going to have massive wages because of AI. No one's going to, need UBI. Can't help but think that that's a little bit of in contradiction there, maybe. Oh, hang on. But yeah, those are the two kind of really odd conferences that we've had today. And as someone's pointed out, yeah, kind of weird having a Christian conference in one of the most secular countries in the world. Hang on, who said that? Stefan. Yeah, exactly. It's odd to have it in such a country like the UK, but that's essentially what it was trying to do. Oh, past news, good morning to you. Paul, yeah, 2 androids, yes. Elon Musk proved that you can have an AI friend in Rishi Sunak. Oh, dear. Oh, yes, something about having a short circuit switch in case the Terminator situation. Yes, that was the other thing that happened as well. They started talking about how AI might be a threat, and if everything goes Terminator, we've got to have a kill switch just in case. So yeah, that's a bit weird. So I've got to, at one point, I think, try and track down that video, or at least the full interview, because I think it's well worth watching. And of course, journalists weren't allowed to ask questions. Only business people are allowed to ask questions, and those people had been pre-selected, and their questions had been pre-screened before they could ask them. So yeah. So yeah, quite odd, to be honest. It was a bizarre conference all around, I think. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the weather at the moment, because I am expecting probably any moment the heavens start to open. I'll have to go around here. As you can see, this is what's left, by the way. I think I told you last week about all this field being flooded. This is what's left of last week's flood. Of course, if we get more rain like we're meant to be getting soon, I wouldn't be surprised if it does it again. Loki, good morning to you. Kill switch and AI weapons would be seen as a vulnerability by weapon manufacturers. Well, this is part of the problem. This is why, to be honest, that conference, there's going to be no universal AI regulation done like we've got with COP. That's not going to be the case, because America is a big enough economy to just go off and do its own thing, and that's exactly what it has done. And the EU is a big enough economy then it will go off and do its own regulation, and then everyone will conform to that regulation, just as they have done with all the other EU regulations, because it's a big enough market to be able to do that. Meanwhile, the UK has a choice. Does it decide, well, we're going to follow US regulations, which means it can't trade with the EU, our closest trading partner, or does it follow the EU regulations, which means then that we can't trade with the US? Leah Gaines, good morning to you. Dreadful weather. Well done for venturing. Yes, it is at the moment. I'm expecting it to absolutely tip it down as well at some point. Hence, we're going to just hang out beneath the tree here for the moment. There we go. Oh, no. I was going to say it's that there. But yeah, it's these two conferences have really highlighted just so much of the desperation in the Conservatives. You have the ARC conference, which is a way that many of the Conservatives would love to go in this direction, but the likelihood of that happening is probably not very high, especially when you couldn't get many Conservatives or UK Conservatives to actually go. At some point, we're going to have to cover what Miriam Cates said as well, and I also want to go over their recommendation for, because it's kind of funny, why we can't go pursuing green technologies, because China will then somehow control all the wind farms and solar farms in the world because of battery production in China. It gets a bit crazy, and that's not all. They've only uploaded just a few small segments. I'm hoping that they'll, to be honest, upload the rest sometime later, because I really want to go over what Kimmy Badenoch said as well, because we've seen what's reported that she's been said when we did the Conservative Home article about it, but we actually haven't seen the full interview. So I'm looking forward to when that finally drops. The other thing that we've seen as well, of course, continuing the Israel-Hamas conflict, unfortunately. Still no signs of a ceasefire, purely for the fact that Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. It's not interested in having one. And of course, Hamas doesn't want one either, because that's why they did the whole thing in the first place, because they knew what the reaction from Israel would be. One of the things that we obviously have seen is Labour's indecision about calling for a ceasefire, and I think there's now being enough pressure being put on that Labour is going to sort of reconsider its position. But as I've said before, the UK alone cannot convince Israel. It has to be really America that will probably get to call the shots on that. That's just how it is. They won't listen to anyone else. And of course, now that there's more and more international sort of condemnation going against Israel, I think we'll probably see a turn against this, and probably a push more for the ceasefire in this regards. But the other thing I want to talk about, because there are idiots out there, and I have said this before, who would love to bring back Corbyn. And there are now this unholy alliance between the Just Stop the War campaign, which, again, I have described to you all as long gone since its heyday of protesting against the Iraq War, to creating, an organisation that is full of crackpots and conspiracy theorists. That's just the truth about that group now. And they have combined with what is essentially the leftover remnants of a lot of the Momentum people, And they are now starting to call for Keir Starmer to resign. To which I say that would be the most dumbest decision I could ever think of possibly happening. Because if that happens, of course the Tories will take advantage of that. Let me explain why. Let's say Keir Starmer folds under the pressure. He won't. But let's say there's enough pressure, there's letters, there's a leadership challenge, which, to be honest, Starmer would ultimately win. Because there's no one really to replace him. Well, there are other good people out there, but should we say it wouldn't be what Momentum would want, which of course would be a return of Jeremy Corbyn. Of course, he's not a member of the party anymore. And exactly, Dave, that's part of the reason that this danger comes into it. Because they would call a snap general election, and they would do two things. First of all, if there is a leadership contest in Labour, they would call a snap general election there. This would mean that Labour would have to do either A, go into a general election with Starmer while knowing full well that there is probably going to be a leadership contest going on in the background, or after that general election. That is not a good look for Labour. And the Tories would make absolute hay. They would make absolute hay off that. Cavaland, good morning to you. Well, have a good time at work. But they would make absolute hay off this. Or they would let the whole thing happen and play out, and then immediately trigger a general election. The idea that they would not call a general election and take advantage of this is pure chaos. And I want to remind people that the people who are calling for this, because no doubt you've all seen these stories. We'll get onto that in a moment, Nicholas. So no doubt you've all seen these stories about, we want Starmer to resign. Their end game, if you've looked into these people more or gone and read some of their blogs, it's to bring back Corbyn. And I'm like, why would you do that? Why on earth would you do that? He would lose another general election. And I'm deadly serious. I think even if Corbyn was in now, I'm not 100% sure he would be able to win a general election. I think instead we would probably get a hung parliament, and I think the Lib Dems would be getting a heck of a lot more votes than they would be doing now. So just something that I want to call out, because I have seen that in the recent times, and yeah, idiots, that's all I can say. Alma, good morning to you. I'm guessing it's tipping it down. I'm probably predicting that is probably not long for us either. So tell you what, I'm probably going to turn around and we'll start back. But we'll have a saunter, as I say. We'll saunter on slowly back. So yeah, a question was it? Where are you? There you are, Nicholas. So why do you think the Palestine conflict is such a left versus right issue? This comes down because of America. This is because of America. What you have is you have the Christian right-wing fundamentalists who, for years, in order to fulfill their doomsday cult, of course, all, Jews must return to the Holy Land. Because if they do that, well then, of course, this triggers the second coming. And the Christian fundamentalist right wing in America has become increasingly more powerful over this. Hence why you see most of the right wing support towards Israel. The left, on the other hand, recognizes the fact that Israel is treating the Palestinians really badly and awfully, and really needs to rethink its stance. Oh, let's go this way. When it comes to the Palestinians, that is why I think there's a recognition of, the suffering that people in Palestine have gone through, and the fact that if you ever really want to get peace in the Middle East, you've got to get both these sides to sit down and really talk it out. And we have done in the past and been somewhat successful. The Oslo Accords were the closest we ever came to it. But even those, unfortunately, failed because the Palestinian leader at the time that managed to help organize and sign the Oslo Accords was assassinated. By a right-wing Israeli. So since then, the main problem has been, and I will always say this, the big problem to peace in the Middle East is two things: Hamas and a right-wing Israeli government. And what have we got at the moment? We've got both of those in play. And I think it comes down to one of those two things needs to go. How those go, I really couldn't tell you. Because here's something I sort of agree with Piers Morgan on, and I don't know what you do. Because Hamas is heavily entrenched in the Gaza Strip. And how do you get rid of Hamas that way, unless you talk with them, unless you really start to show proper peace proposals? But even then, Hamas could do things like it did with its recent terrorist attack, which could scupper any further peace proposals, which in then turn embolden the far right in Israel. You see, it's a circle of violence, and you've got to somehow find a way to break that circle of violence. And I will say this now, I do not purport to know how on earth you would break that, because it is super, super complex. Years of all sorts of historical things going on, all sorts of really complex stuff. I don't have the answer to that. And I'm not afraid to say I don't have the answer to that. If I did, of course, I would probably be winning a Nobel Peace Prize. But there you go. Makes a lot of sense. More empathy on the left. Yep. Like I say, I hope that's enlightened you to why this is whole seen as very much a sort of left-right conflict. But yes, hope that's helped. Pagan. Another issue on the left is that the left treat the centre left as right wing instead of allies that they really are. So when the centre leftists have more moderate opinions on this, the leftists decry them. Exactly. I think we've discussed this, I don't know how many times on this channel. We've talked about this so much. So much. That when you look at people in the UK, where they are like, what are you? Are you left or are you right wing? Now, a lot of people, if you did that, would say, oh, I'm neither, I'm a centrist. And this is proven out in poll after poll after poll. And it's always roughly about the same. You get 25% who say they're right wing, 25% who say they're left wing, and then a massive 30% who go, we're centrists. So the real battle to win a general election is not only somehow to get all your side to come out to vote, but to also try and grab as much of that centrist vote as you possibly can. And the big problem is as we've said before, the left does not seem to want to ally with its centre leftist allies because, you know, even though they agree on a lot of stuff, it's seen as, if you do not agree with us 100%, no, we're not going to listen to you. You are some sort of enemy. You are, in fact, actually some sort of Tory. How dare you call yourself a leftist? We've seen it all before. And we saw this during Corbyn, where you had not socialist MPs in Labour, but they were firmly on the left, saying, I'm not really for this policy you're putting forward. I agree with it, some of its fundamental core principles, but is there any way that we can negotiate this so that I can sell this back in my constituency? And the answer from Momentum came, no. It's our way or the highway. And I would also say the same of Keir Starmer, that he should listen to some people on the left and bring in some left-wing policy ideas. I don't think that would be a necessarily bad thing to do. It's what Tony Blair did. And I always said that Momentum now should focus on like 3 or 4 core policies and just say, these are the policies we want to bring in, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to advance, advance this within Labour. And unfortunately they don't. They just go, look, we all want to go 100% socialist, and essentially they don't negotiate, they don't sit down, and that's the big problem. It's super frustrating and annoying, shall we say, because this conflict at the moment in the Middle East, I can see people trying to organise a boycott on the left, and then that could create an issue of how much is that going to hurt Labour votes, because as we said at the beginning, you've got 25% on the left, 25% on the right, and the fight really is how much more of those centrists can we win to your position. And the big problem becomes that at a general election, the right wing goes, we are going to vote with the right wing party because we know that advances our interests. Meanwhile, the left will go, well, actually, 15% of us are not going to vote for the left-wing party because it doesn't advance our ideas or do anything for us. but we would far rather let a right-wing government in that isn't going to give you anything you want. And this is something that I've repeated many times on this channel. I would rather have Keir Starmer and his Labour government, who might give me about 30 to 40% of what I want, versus another 4 or 5 years of Tory government where I get nothing of what I want. And that has been consistently the big problem of British lefties. That because they're not getting 100% of everything that they want, we're not interested. Yeah, exactly, Ben. Yeah, the issue is that this conflicts have provided the far left with an excuse to kick Starmer and constantly wail and moan about things that were better under Corbyn. They're boring now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And also, I love it how many of these momentum groups suddenly really, really care about this whole issue when all they've posted about for the past 3 to 4 years is, you know, we hate Starmer, we want Corbyn back. Yeah, it's an absolutionist mindset, exactly. And here's the thing, what I've said all the time is, what they should do is be willing to compromise and negotiate and say, how can we get this policy in? We might have to compromise on some stuff, but you know what, we get this policy in, it's a good outcome. You've only got to look at the Liberal Party in Canada that is currently supporting Justin Trudeau. They got a ton of left-wing stuff in, and some of the stuff they had to compromise on, but they got it through. And they're showing how good their policies are, which is giving them a massive, hopefully a good boost in the polls. Although I don't know about Canada at the moment. It seems that the Canadian Conservatives are really going in with a lot of bizarre conspiracies at the moment. So, yeah. That's fun. Maybe we should look at that at some point. But yeah, you've got to compromise. At some point, you've got to recognise your 100% socialist policy might not fly well with the whole of the British public. So instead of going like 100% and maybe only getting 15%, why not compromise it and go 50%, which might dramatically increase the opinions of the British public in order to want that proposal. And I have to make reference to the PR movement. I really do have to bring up the PR movement. The PR movement has been doing a fantastic job. The PR movement has been doing an amazing job when it is coming to talking about public opinion and it being good. I'd rather have a good Labour government than a perfect Labour opposition. I would as well. I would as well. You know, I would far rather Keir Starmer's government and, you know, we campaign for, you know, good progressive policies that actually stand a chance of being listened to under Starmer. And who else was it there? Michael Smith. The problem is Keir Starmer, he's basically a Tory right now. His economic policy Economic policy, Tory. Tory social issues, Tory. At what point should you not vote Labour? Have you actually listened to anything that Labour have been advocating for and putting forward? You've got Rachel Reeves, who is actually going to invest in the UK, and a massive green investment. He's done a ton of stuff that is not, this is what I'm talking about. It's not Tory, because I'm not going to lie, would the Tories actually do the stuff that Keir Starmer is talking about? No, they wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. Not in a million years. Would those policies be better for the UK than the current Tory government? Absolutely. And if you want more good progressive policies, then this is what you need to do. You need to join the Labour Party and start advocating from within the Labour Party for these things to happen, because these movements in Labour do exist. But you need to get Labour MPs that are of that position, and you need to talk to them, you need to persuade them, you need to do a lot of hard work and grafting for it. And one of the things I really do see from a lot of people on the hard left is that, oh, that's too hard, I would rather just sit and complain about it. So Momentum, when it first came in, did a massive movement to let's get a load of people in, join the Labour Party, and we'll get Corbyn elected. The problem is, they thought that that was it, mission accomplished. No, it wasn't. And time again, they got hoisted by their own petard because they refused to acknowledge that the Labour Party was not a socialist party. It's still a party of the left, but it is not 100% a socialist party, meaning that you have to compromise, you have to negotiate, you have to work with people who are not on your, fully socialist. They might be sock Dems, they might be really progressive on some areas, but maybe they're economic, maybe they're right-wing leaning when it comes to economics. You have to work with these people. Because the Labour Party is a big tent party of the left. And unless you can organise that and get out your people to come to your circus, it ain't going to happen. And this is continuously the problem that the UK left seems to have, as Pagan put it, this absolutist worldview. That's the problem. Because, as I said before, and I always say it, I would rather have Keir Starmer and his Labour government, which, to be honest, are going to do a lot of the stuff I want to do, especially when it comes to greening the economy, decarbonising the steel industry, hopefully restoring HS2. But we'll see. We'll see when it comes back to that, what happens there. But I don't think they can make their minds up on what to do about it. Admittedly, it's a bit of an annoying issue, but HS2 had cross-party support, so I still do believe that would still exist if they did commit to rebuilding HS2, and not just HS2, but HS3 that goes up further north up into Scotland, HS4 which would go from London over to Bristol, and of course a HS5 route which would go from Cardiff probably to Birmingham and then on to London. So this is the type of infrastructure investment we really need in the UK, and not having ideologues dictate that is going to be actually quite nice for once. But yeah, we'll see. And of course, when Starmer is in government, I'm going to have my complaints. I do not think Starmer is 100% perfect. I do actually believe he has a lot of flaws, certainly when it comes to some of his politics. But that to me doesn't matter, because I would rather have him in than another couple of years of Rishi Sunak, that's for sure. So I don't know if you can see it, it's raining over on the other side of the valley. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but yes, so I'm going to beat a very hasty retreat because it's probably about to tip it down here any moment. But as always, thank you so much for joining me as always today on today's Good Morning Walk. Like I say, do remember to click on the like and share button on your way out. Of course, there is the Patreon thing down before. There is the, hang on, there you go. I'll show you the ponies, because I know that's why you're here. There you go. So as always, thank you very much as always for joining us on today's Good Morning Walk. We'll see you all, of course, next time. Again, please do remember to click on the like, share button on your way out. Do leave a comment as well down below. That helps with all the algorithmical stuff. And of course, leave a like for the pony as well. So, as always, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And of course, we'll see you all next time.